Round 2. Fight.
All right.
We just picked another problem. Group anagrams. So given an array of strings, we want to group anagrams together. So if you have a list of words, we want it to be a list of lists of words, where each sublist is an anagram.
I think when you explained it, you made it more complicated.
Okay, so you want to go for it?
That's why I shouldn't have flamed you. So you have a word, an anagram is just that word backwards, really.
Oh no, it's the word with the same letters of the same length, but in different orderings. So
Right. Okay, I don't know what an anagram
so
is.
eat, T, and 8 are all anagrams of each other.
Yeah.
3 letters, the same letters,
Oh,
but in different
shit.
orders.
What's that thing where you flip the letters?
Palindrome.
A palindrome.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
this is anagram. You suck. Okay. So
Have you ever done like coding question interviews? Like they're always doing some weird shit with words. You know, like
Yeah.
anagrams, palindromes, reverse this, flip that. Like that's like half of these interview questions.
It's pretty bad. So essentially, 2 words are anagrams if they have 2 qualities.
Yeah.
1, they have the same set of characters, and 2, they have the same frequencies of each character. So for example, eat and T are anagrams because they all use the letters T, E, and A, and they also have one of each.
Right.
Even not words like B, B, C, and C, B, B, those would be anagrams because they have 2 B's and 1 C. Right. So essentially what we want to do is, given any word, determine some sort of like grouping that it should correspond to. Just based on those 2 things, the letters that it has and the frequencies of each letters. The way I'm thinking of doing that is using some sort of a dictionary or a hash table.
And why would you want to use a hash table?
Because you can somehow compare the letters that you have in each one with a key.
Right, and well, you want a hash table because you get instant retrieval.
Yeah, instant retrieval.
Yeah.
So basically, I'm thinking like a key is going to be some like code that each anagram or each anagram that should be in the same category would correspond to. And then the bucket would be like a linked list or so, or the list of words. So I'm thinking if you want to group things that have the same letters and the same length, there's got to be a way to combine all of the letters in a way that deterministically maps to the same grouping in a way. So like
I have an idea. I think what we can do, so we need some kind of tracker to see if the letters are the same, right?
Right.
So we could instantiate an array of 26 letters, or like an array of 26, and then for example, like index 0 is A, and index 25 is Z. If we have this array, we can kind of use that as a marker to see if the same letters are being used.
I kind of spaced out halfway through that. Okay, but yeah, essentially.
Let's draw it out. Let's draw it out. That will make it more sense. So you can think of it like this, right? So what I'm thinking here is if we have this array of the 26 letters. Let's say I get the input A, B, C.
A would go into element 0. B would be element 1, C 2, and so on.
And then I mark, let's say I get this word. So I'm going to mark A, I mark B, and I mark C. When I say mark, I essentially mean adding 1, right?
I don't know if that makes sense, but it's not our fault. We did what we could. So what would the keys to our hash map be? Basically, we need to turn the array into a key, right? But the problem here is that arrays are mutable, and therefore we can't use them as keys.
Right.
So what we were
They're
thinking...
mutable because you can keep adding more stuff to the array.
We could literally just do the string representation of that array. That could work, actually. .toString.
Would that work?
Actually, I think it might.
All right, whatever. Let's try it.
Yeah, we could also, instead of using arrays, we could just sort each string. And basically, for example, eat would turn into AET, or for example, T would also go to AET. Therefore, those are both anagrams because it would be the same.
That one, I think that's the most intuitive. I think that's probably the solution that most people will go with. The problem with that is when you sort all the words, that takes up a lot more time, right? Because every word that you get as an input, you're going to have to sort.
And that would be okay if we knew for sure that we're only dealing with words with 3 characters. But in this case, we can't make that assumption. We could have words that have 10,000 characters in them, and thus sorting would take a significant amount of time. So it's kind of a trade-off between whether or not sorting a word is faster than generating an array of those words and then converting it into a string.
Right. I guess there would be a certain tipping point, but we won't go into that. Let's just normally
so we
this is totally the thing I would Google, like how do you index on an array?
But in an interview,
but you know what,
really
we're not using Google at all. because we're stupid. So let's start this out. So basically, we want a function that turns a word into a code. So we can do for word in strings. For each of these words,
let's just pseudocode it first.
Okay, sure. So earlier, Chris talked about creating a code for each word. After we do that, we want to actually start creating these sets of anagrams.
Yeah.
So what we're gonna do to actually store these sets is a hash map. So in Python, that's the same thing as a dictionary. First, we'll see if a code matches any existing codes. Obviously, on the first pass, since we've never done this, there are no existing codes. So we'll actually go to this step, line 15. So if there are not any existing codes, then we'll create a new entry in the hash map where the key is the code. So that's the thing we want to index on. And the value is the list of corresponding words. And so if you look at this output right here, kind of the way we're thinking about this is the list of corresponding words, and we'll have this
some sort of key,
right? And the key is that code we were talking about.
Right.
The magic of this key is that with the hash map, you'll be able to find the list of corresponding words instantly, right?
Right.
All right, let's get coding. All right, use these codes to create groups. For each word, we're going to
first we need a function, right?
Right, so
or we can abstract that first if we want.
Yeah, so let's just say for word in strings. I'm just gonna assume we have this function called convert, right?
Right.
So convert word, and so we'll call this code. So let's define convert. So convert is going to take a word. We'll just call it W here, so we're not using the exact same variable. And it will output some code. We want to take it in an array, right?
Right.
So let's do that outside the function where we instantiate the array. So we'll call this, let's just call it alphabet. So alphabet is equal to an array. We're going to start off with zeros.
And then multiply by 26.
By 26, right?
Right.
And so what this does is it takes this array of one element and you just get literally 26 zeros.
Yeah,
so it's pretty
append them
intuitive.
together into one array.
The reason why I define it outside of the function is because I don't want to have to create the alphabet every time you run
Well,
this.
no, what we want to do is we want to initialize alphabet every single time because we don't want to modify something in a previous call to convert.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so we don't want...
Actually,
so one principle in a lot of these coding things is you never want to modify the parameters that are being passed into a function if possible. You want it to do one thing. You want it to have an expected outcome. We don't want a bunch of side effects that could mess us up.
That's true. Yeah, it's abstraction. Yeah, so you're right. So we put alphabet inside here. Understand that strings are basically arrays in Python.
They're arrays of characters.
Where each character is an element. So for each letter in the word, we're going to do I forgot how to do this. You have to you know what I'm saying, right? You have to convert the letter to an index. So what we can do
is, in every language, there's going to be some way to convert a character into its raw integer format.
Yeah.
The thing is, it doesn't start at 0. Yeah. But if we're using an array, we want A to be indexed to 0. We want B to be indexed to 1 because that's the array we have. Yeah.
For whatever reason, when you convert letters to numbers, it doesn't start at 0, because I think the first letter in the code alphabet is an exclamation point or a question mark
something
or something
like that.
right?
Yeah.
So just some other symbol shit. Yeah.
So what you can do to make sure it maps to 0 or starting at 0 is you can just subtract from A because you know that A is going to be the first one and they're all going to have contiguous integer values. So if you subtract, let's say C from the number value of A, it's always going to be 2 no matter where A actually starts.
Right. Yeah. Let's do that. So we know that the function for converting a letter to a number is ORD, as in what's that stand for? Ordinal? Ordinary? I don't know. So we get ORD letter, and like Chris mentioned, we're gonna do minus ORD of A. And then what we'll do here is we'll get alphabet, and we'll get the index of that, and we're going to add 1 to it. And once that's done, that's essentially our code. The array is the code, right? So we could do alphabet to string. I'm actually not sure if this works, but we'll see. Now let's go into step 2. So instantiate hash map. I'll literally just call it hash map, or let's call it a little something more descriptive. We'll call this groupings. Groupings. Yeah.
Let's go with that.
So
I like that.
Yeah. So we gotta see if it makes any existing codes. Running this back in English. We saw for all the words in strings, we're going to convert it to this code. If this code already exists, then we're going to get that set of words and add the word. And so now let's talk about what happens if that's not true.
We can actually condense this into just, instead of having word set, we can just do groupings code dot append.
Now, what do we need to do?
So now this is if the code isn't in groupings and we haven't seen it yet, which is always going to happen for the first instance of that grouping.
Yeah, we'll just do groupings, code, and we'll set that equal to word. But I can't, if I do this, that's wrong. I need to set it to a list of words. Right.
Correct. So now we need step 3, which is we need to now convert this into a list of lists, because that's what our output is expected to be.
Yeah.
Basically, .values returns a list of all the values, and each value is a list. Therefore, it's a list of lists.
Yeah.
So we can do return. I could look stupid and completely be getting this wrong, but I think it's okay. If so, it's raw. Return groupings .values.
Yeah.
I'm
not sure if that's gonna work, but whatever.
Let's hope for the best. Let's hope for the best. A is not defined.
Oh, I need to.
Oh yeah, it has to be the character. Yeah. Too many values to unpack. What? This is where the issue is, right? Okay, because our grouping array looks okay.
Yeah.
Boom!
Oh shit!
Woo! But it's really slow. So basically what happened is our algorithm is working, but it's really slow. So we're doing unnecessary amounts of work somewhere here.
Yeah.
I think the main issue here is that we're using a toString method to convert this array into a string.
Because we're essentially had to read in the entire array and convert that to a string.
Construct, basically, that's what I said. Oh, you don't even need a string. You just need to convert into a tuple. Boom!
Oh, shit. I'm surprised that one little thing changed it. Yeah, actually. Cool. So, any takeaways from doing this again?
I don't know. What did you learn?
I learned how much I don't like doing these.
This is really bad. All right.
I actually, I think it's good. It's interesting and rewarding in the sense that you have like a pretty short, well-defined puzzle. It's just always interesting how different solving these types of puzzles are from regular
actual
coding,
industry coding.
And there's like very different types of coding, right? There's coding for an interview. There's coding that you might have in a homework or a class project. Then you have coding for yourself, like maybe I'm building a website, I'm building an app, and you're very hacky with things, you kind of build whatever you want. And then there's coding in a big company where you are building new features, but you have to work within the guidelines of that company's code base.
Absolutely,
right? Yeah. And so I guess the point here is just like there's so many different types of coding.
Yeah.
And although we're all using the same language, it's not always super transferable.
Right. Well, yeah, the thing is people like to bash on the coding interview process for being irrelevant to actual work.
Yeah.
But in that case, there's really no way to interview people based on actual work because your work changes so much.
Right. And it's not like you can go in an interview and be like, here's my whole big ass code base, like go build like a real feature
It's just
and
not
go
practical.
write the test for everything. It's very impractical.
Yeah.
Right?
So
this is a good proxy for how does this person look at a problem, explain the problem, and then solve the problem.
Right. And it's got to be standardized in some way. Do I think it's a perfect process? No. But I don't really have any alternatives that I could suggest. Yeah. All right. So I think that'll do it for today. Let us know what you think of this type of video. This was kind of fun, actually.
I hope you guys didn't like it because it was painful and I don't.
It was very painful for us. All right. Well, thank you so much for watching. Hit the subscribe button, like, comment, notification bell. I'll start having you say that from now on because I'm getting tired of it. All right. See you in the next video.
All right. See you.